Shiva is awakening planet Earth in 2023. Today we're going to be talking about what I believe is happening and what you can do to awaken Shiva from his slumber, to destroy the negative aspects of the third dimension and usher in the consciousness and the joy of the fifth dimension. Be a part of the interdimensional revolution. Higher dimensional beings, also known as extraterrestrials, have declared war on 3D deep state. Join with us against global enslavement. Hi, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, following the path of Odin, dying to the false self, which is really what Shiva is all about. Odin and Shiva, by the way, are the same person, in case you didn't know that. But I've talked about that in videos and in books. So please do me a favor, before we get into this subject today, understand that this channel is not just here for you to listen to me blab. This channel is a resource for you. It is a library filled with tools. Audiobooks.thunderwizard.com. You can hear about the interdimensional revolution. You can hear me talk about how Odin has come to destroy the false self. And Odin says Jesus was a coward. Go up here to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. The shift that has already arrived. It has just begun. The energy shift that you're feeling is inevitable, but you can decide whether or not you are going to ascend comfortably and powerfully, or if this ascension that we are experiencing is going to feel like a death. Because Shiva, the god of destruction, is in fact awakening out of his slumber, and he is determined to awaken the planet Earth this year. This was something that came to me in my meditations yesterday. So if you go to the interdimensional meditation course, which is again is at thethunderwizard.com, and subscribe, I strongly recommend that. I strongly recommend that you do the practices in the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. Do not give up on that. If you've already started doing it, don't stop. The shift that is coming is going to have a huge effect on the nervous systems and the energy meridians of human beings. And if you do not have a practice that lifts that energy vibration up, the shift is going to continue to be challenging, if it's already been challenging for you. All right, so let's talk about Shiva. You see, this is Shiva Shakti here. And Shiva Shakti means the union of both the masculine and the feminine energies, which is something that happens when you go through the destruction of the false self. The other thing that's interesting about this idea of Shiva Shakti, where masculine and feminine are merged together, is that the fifth dimension and above, you have things that are fused together that we have separately here in the third dimension. So in the third dimension, for instance, gravity is its own property. Electromagnetism is its own property. But in the fifth dimension, as I understand it, this is coming from physicists, electromagnetism and gravity are the same force. All of the light that comes into our third dimensional world is not from the third dimension. The third dimension is actually dark. It's completely dark. But all of the light that comes to us from stars, from, doesn't matter where it comes from, fires. If you have a, this is one of the reasons that people worship fires and that beings and spirits would come out of bonfires, is because light is one of the avenues through which higher dimensional beings travel. And so this is why you could be sitting there and out of the fire would come some being And nowadays, I mean, higher dimensional beings can come in through light bulbs. You know, they can come in through sunlight, starlight, moonlight. But light itself comes from the fifth dimension. And so does consciousness. So again, this is one of the reasons why Shiva is seen as merged with Shakti. He's not just Shiva, he's Shiva Shakti. He is the merging of both masculine and feminine. He is the merging of opposites. Because this is how energy is and consciousness. Now in the third dimension is not, consciousness does not reside here. Consciousness projects itself onto the third dimension. Another way to look at it is, you know, imagine that you've got a prism and you have light, you know, goes into the prism, but the prism breaks it up into all of the colors. So the earth is like the screen onto which the prism projects all the different colors of light. But in the fifth dimension, all those colors are one in the white light. So white light contains all the different colors. Consciousness contains all the different manifestations of consciousness, all the different kinds of identity. So Shiva is called the destroyer. So when I tell you that Shiva is awakening and that Shiva has decided in 2023 to begin the awakening process of human beings, which is what I'm telling you, it means that Shiva has decided to destroy all of the false projections that you believe you are. So anything that causes you pain, anything that causes you discomfort, anything that causes you dissatisfaction, anything that causes you to feel like you need to have this or you need to have that, these are associated with limitations within the third dimension. There is nothing outside of you. This is why Shiva meditates. Shiva has achieved complete realization. And because he has achieved complete realization, he knows that everything that is within him is already in the universe. And so he doesn't need to go beyond himself for anything. He doesn't need any other person, doesn't need any other thing. He is complete within himself. And when he is deep within his meditation, within himself, then what ends up happening is that then he is one with all conscious beings. So you can easily say, this is why, you know, you don't see a lot of mantras that say, I am Brahma, for instance, or I am Krishna. You'll never, ever find a mantra that says, I am Krishna. You will never find it. If you talk to a Krishna devotee, they will always speak of Krishna as being outside of them, always. Krishna is out there. This is why Krishna devotees, they are just like Christians. In fact, if you take many of the things that Krishna devotees say and you take the word Krishna out and replace it with Jesus, it will sound exactly the same. Everything is Jesus. You know, all gods are Krishna. All gods come from Krishna, but for them, Krishna is outside of them. Krishna is the lover that they can never merge with. That's why, you know, Krishna has his, you know, all of those cowherder women that are constantly chasing after him, and they're desperate for his touch because he's outside of them. But Shiva's different. Shiva, everything is inside of Shiva. Everything has fused and is within him. And I remember had to have been 30 years ago. And I was meditating after doing some of the things that I teach you up here. And I was meditating and I found myself floating outside of my own body. And my body was enormous. And it was just surrounded by the blackness of space, I guess. And I was just this little ball of light, and I was floating around this giant, what looked like my body in the meditative posture I was in. And I got this very powerful feeling that said to me, when you look up in the sky, you are looking within yourself. This is true for you. Everything that you see, everything that you experience is within you. And this is the point of meditation. This is why Shiva is constantly in meditation. But when you get to that state, you destroy the limitations of your identity. So Shiva is called the destroyer. So let's look at the three. We've got Brahma, which is the creator. We've got Vishnu, who is the preserver. And we've got Shiva, who is the destroyer. If you want to be smart, and you want to know, like smart in the sense of knowing a bunch of facts, if you want to know a bunch of facts about the third dimension, then worship Brahma. Sat Chid Ekam Brahma is one of his favorite mantras, and it's a mantra that is used for monks that want to become, extremely wise when it comes to, knowledge of things, stuff. Sat Chit Ekam Brahma. And he is the creator, so he creates an identity. You must have an identity to function in the third dimension. So again, people who talk about, you hear me talking about it now, destruction of identity. You'll notice that I'm not using the word destruction of ego, because people conflate ego with all kinds of different things. And so that word is used all kinds of ways, I think, improperly. So I try not to use that word, because it's always said with derision. I'm saying that you must destroy your identity and go beyond it, but I'm not deriding the identity. You must have an identity in order to be sane. People who are insane don't have an identity. You must have an identity, and then you must transcend it. That's not the same as not having one. People who are severely emotionally and psychologically disturbed never had an identity, so they can't transcend what they don't have. So Brahma creates your identity, which is why Brahma is associated with the egg, which is why Brahma is associated with that which has to do with understanding knowledge in the third dimension. And then you have Vishnu. Vishnu is the preserver. Vishnu is by far the most popular deity, whether it be Rama or Krishna or Buddha even. These are avatars of the preserver. So the preserver is not seeking to destroy the third dimension. The preserver is seeking to spiritualize your three-dimensional identity experience. So when you worship Krishna, when you worship Rama, when you worship Buddha even, you are worshiping the part of divinity that seeks to give you a spiritual, physical experience. There's that old tired phrase that says, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. That is Vishnu. That is why Vishnu is the only being who incarnates in 3D. Jesus, if he were actually had existed, Jesus would have been an incarnation of Vishnu. But trust me, Jesus never existed. There never was the fictional Jesus in the New Testament never existed. He's a made-up character. But what he represents is definitely an avatar of Vishnu, without a doubt. So Vishnu is what you worship if you want to have a good life, if you want to have a good marriage, if you want to have a good physical life and enjoy the things in life. This is why Vishnu's consort is Lakshmi. Lakshmi has to do with the planet Venus, which is spiritualizing all of the things having to do with 3D reality. You use 3D reality to view the spiritual and appreciate art, music, tantric sex, whatever it is. That's Lakshmi. So you have the preserver, which is Vishnu, and then you have Shiva. Shiva is the destroyer. That's just a word, but he seeks to go beyond, seeks to transcend. But the thing about Shiva is that Shiva loves Vishnu, which is why Shiva, we could argue he incarnated as Hanuman, even though they use a different word for it than avatar. But that's what Hanuman represents. And when I forget what the interaction was between Rama and Hanuman, but there's something about Hanuman's loyalty or service to Rama was in question, and Hanuman took his hands with his nails and he dug into his chest and he tore his chest open. And when you looked into where his heart was, you saw Rama. So what he's saying is that the thing that is most important to Shiva is the soul, which is what Vishnu represents, the soul incarnating in 3D. And so this destroyer of our 3D identity is actually completely devoted to the evolution of the soul. But the evolution of the soul means when you go beyond where you are, you must die to your identity. You must be willing to die to who you think you are. I've had no shortage of physical issues not even the past year, past 7-8 months. Because my energy body and my identity are struggling, as many of you are, with the tremendous energy shift that is hitting us. And thankfully, I know how to heal myself and restore myself and get my energy flowing. And I have some tools to be able to move through and let go of my identity attachments. But my belief is that the time for, taking your time, working on yourself and taking your time, I believe that time has come to an end. If it hasn't come to an end yet, it is coming to an end very soon. And so it's one thing when you decide that you are going to destroy your ego attachment to the third dimension and all of the things that you think are necessary for your existence. It's one thing when you take your time to do that, and it's another thing when the force of consciousness itself says, all right, we're going to wake up now. Time to wake up. Then it can be, you'll have your own experience of it. My strong recommendation is that you take the tools that are made available to you wherever you find them and you use them. I also strongly recommend that you get out of your narcissistic, entitled victim mentality. Let me give you what a narcissistic, entitled victim mentality says. One of the things, it says many things, but one of the things a narcissistic victim mentality will say is, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to sacrifice anything. I don't need to discipline myself. I'm just going to be my own guru, and I'm going to do it myself. I don't need anybody else's help. That is the sign of a frightened victim mentality who believes that they deserve everything, like a frightened little child. The reason for that is because if you interact with forces, if you interact with consciousness that will lovingly and ruthlessly push you beyond those limitations that hold you back, you will go through a death. So, bear in mind, again, this is something new. This is a brand new thing. I've been dealing with it my entire career as a spiritual teacher. There has been no shortage of students who say, I'm just going to do it myself. I don't need a teacher. I don't need to sacrifice anything. I don't need to follow any tradition. I don't need to follow any discipline. I'm just going to do it myself. And you should just give me what I want. That's what goes along with it. You should just give me what I want. I shouldn't have to sacrifice myself, or, in modern times, pay money for something. I shouldn't have to do that. You should just give it to me. And I haven't talked about it a lot recently, but way back when, I would say, do you realize, when people would come to me and say, I want to be your apprentice, but I don't want to, I want to pick and choose what I want to do, and blah, blah, blah. And I would say, do you realize what it used to mean to be an apprentice? When you went to be, like for instance, let's go back 1,000 years. If you go back in time 1,000 years, and you happen to be a young Indian, and you decided you wanted to learn with a master, whatever it is, which is a yogi, not just doing yoga. A yogi means union, so be like Sifu, a yogi. And you say, I want to find a master, a yogi that I can train with. And if you were to go to that yogi, and if that yogi accepted you as an apprentice, then you would be that person's servant. You would wake up in the morning and make him food. You would go out and you'd do the begging and you'd get money while he's sitting inside meditating all day. And you'd go out and get the money, and then you'd clean the place up, and then you would basically just be a laborer servant for that person. And then when he awoke and decided to give you a little tidbit, he would give you something to do. He would teach you a meditation. He would say, go do that and come back in a month. And that whole time, you'd have to still be taking care of him and his stuff. And then maybe a month later, he'd say, okay, tell me what happened. You show me your whatever it is. People don't understand what it means to sacrifice your ego, to sacrifice your identity for knowledge. And we live in a completely different time now. Nobody does that anymore. I've had people offer that to me, and I've said, no, there's no way you're going to come live in my house. It's not going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. So we are moving out of that time of gurus, but it does not change the fact that you must sacrifice your identity to something greater. And you wish you had a living guru that you could go to and work through giving over your identity. That's gone now. Your idea of who you are, your idea of what keeps you alive, your idea of what keeps you sane, you must be willing to sacrifice all of those things. Now, having said that, there is one thing you should never sacrifice. You should never sacrifice your value. A true guru will never devalue you. They will never make you feel like you're, they will never, if they're harsh with you. For instance, like when I hold up the mirror to people, sometimes they believe that they may believe that I'm attacking them. And then what will happen is they will in turn take things very personally, and they will attack me personally. And I will always respond and say, to the best of my knowledge, I don't believe I've ever personally attacked you. I just simply said X, Y, and Z. And here you are personally attacking me. So Shiva will never devalue you. Shiva's entire focus is to help you have a stronger experience of your own value. The interdimensional beings will never criticize you, ever. You will know if you believe that you are interacting with a higher dimensional being and it criticizes you, or if it criticizes somebody else, then you know you're not dealing with a higher dimensional being. You're either dealing with a lower vibrational being, which is extremely rare, or you are dealing with your own narcissistic ego, which you are conflating or confusing with a higher dimensional being. So the one thing about higher dimensional beings is that their main focus is to value you. In fact, a 3D teacher usually will have to address your limitations in ways that are challenging to your ego. It's almost, I don't know any true teacher who, isn't going to say, listen, I'm here to tell you the truth, and the truth is whatever it is, and you're not going to like it. But the higher dimensional beings are so powerful, which includes Shiva, by the way. Shiva is at the very least, a 9th dimensional, if not 11th dimensional being. But higher dimensional beings, they don't need to do that. I do. If I'm working with you in the 3rd dimension, I have to. I have to deal with your narcissistic resistance. I have to, because we're both in the 3rd dimension. But a higher dimensional being doesn't need to do that. A higher dimensional being, if they want to destroy your attachment, what they will do is they will give you an experience of true spiritual unconditional love. And when you experience that, it will be potentially very traumatic. You might even think that you're being attacked. You might even think that you're being lied to, manipulated. And then you'll have to, if you sit back and then go, wait, what did that being just say? And when you really look at what the being said or the energy that they gave you, you'll realize there was nothing negative about it. But I'm having these very negative responses, and I'm acting as though I'm being attacked. I'm acting as though this being is trying to lie to me. This is why, by the way, so many wannabe spiritual seekers are so enthralled with this idea of false beings of light trying to trick you. Anybody listening to me, if you have heard that and it resonates with you, I've just in the past few weeks, there's been no shortage of questions of people asking me having to do with working with higher dimensional beings, but I don't know if I would trust them. How do I know that they're not going to trick me? So-and-so says that beings of light want to trick you. If you have that feeling, or if that resonates with you, it means that you are attached to your 3-dimensional identity. And when the highest level of energy, spiritual energy, comes to you, it's going to connect you to the truest source of love within you, which is your soul. And you will feel your attachment, the things that you're attached to, you will begin to feel those things being destroyed, and you will confuse one for the other. You will think that your 3-dimensional world that is coming apart is you. And so you'll then accuse these higher dimensional beings of light as being demons, or wanting to trick you and suck the life out of your soul. This is why people love this whole reptilian nonsense. This is why people believe in alien abductions, don't realize that alien abductions are done by humans, not done by extraterrestrials. And this is why people, not only do people, I mean, I've talked to UFO experts and I've said, I'm an ET contactee. I can prove it. And I'm here to tell you, I'm speaking on their behalf. There's no such thing as extraterrestrials abducting humans and experimenting on them. It never happens. It's never happened. It never will happen. That's done by humans. And you'd be surprised the resistance. So-called people who seem to take the ufology and ET thing like a religion, but when you tell them that ETs will never do that to you, they become very upset. Well, the same is true for you. When you interact with Shiva, when Shiva comes to you in his true form, which is why Shiva has a fierce form, the Ugra, or as Odin is called, Ug, which means the same thing, terrifying. When Shiva comes to you to release you from your identity, it will terrify you. So, if you want to avoid being terrified by liberation of your soul, you must shift your energy and your consciousness to a higher vibrational level. That is not going to be done by talking. That is going to be done by doing the work, doing the meditations, doing the energy practices. So here's something I recommend to all of those of you who are doing the interdimensional meditation course. I have spoken with some of you I haven't. I know there's a lot of people that have done it. I haven't spoken with all of you. But those of you who have had powerful experiences, like me, it is possible that an interdimensional being has told you who you are, and you can't accept it because it seems too amazing, too much. When they tell you what an amazing, powerful, wonderful, whatever it is that you are, your true essence, when they come and tell you that, and your response is to be disturbed by that, to then doubt it, and then to go through this like doubt of how can I possibly be this amazing thing that they're telling me that I am. Now you know what I'm talking about. What I'd like for you to do, let's say that a being comes to you and says, you are, I'm just going to pick something. I'm trying to pick something that hasn't happened to me or somebody else that I know. So let's see. Let's say that an interdimensional being comes to you and says that you are the source of all love in the universe. That you are the being who will bring love to the world. And you alone, you've been destined to come and bring this to the entire world. If something like that has happened to you and you can't deal with it, you wake up the next day and you're full of hatred, you're full of shame, you're full of fear, you're full of resentment, regret, envy, you've got victim mentality, and you're thinking to yourself, how the hell could I be the source of all love for the earth? How is that even possible? It's not possible. And you feel like you're going crazy. If you've experienced, you know what I'm talking about. It feels like you're losing your mind. Here's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you, every day that you wake up, I'd like for you to, as you're waking up, before you've completely opened your eyes, but you're no longer dreaming and you're just lying in bed and you're in that state between sleep and wake, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to ask yourself the question, and you can ask it to your guides if you want as well. But let's say you're the source of all love for the planet. What I'd like for you to do is to ask yourself, in that fifth dimensional state, ask yourself, all right, how can I bring total love to this world? My job is to be the source of all love for the entire world. How can I bring this into my life today? How can I accomplish this today? And even if you don't get any intuitions on how to do that, you might. And it might be something really simple, whatever it is. But even if you don't, just by accepting what you've been told, that is so amazing, it feels like you're losing your mind. Just by accepting what you've been told and then asking yourself how you can bring into the third dimension that, whatever it is. This will keep you in a deeper state of 5D. And what will happen is you'll bump into people and something will happen and you will want to respond out of your attachment. You'll want to respond out of fear, you'll want to respond out of anger, you'll want to respond out of greed, you'll want to manipulate them, you'll want to compete with them, something like that. You want to, maybe you'll want to attack them or criticize them or use them. You might want to do all kinds of 3D things. But if you are constantly trying to remind yourself that I don't understand it, but I am the force of love for the entire world, how can I in this moment shift that? How can I bring that into this moment? And you will find yourself slowly learning how to respond differently. And I haven't mastered it to the best of my knowledge, but I try to the best of my ability when I run into people's 3D limitations. I seek to respond as though exactly the way a higher dimensional being responds to me. By the way, I've asked my higher dimensional guides for a handful of things without any shame. Whatever it is that I want, I'll go to them and I'll ask them. And there's been a few times where they have come to me, they'll go and think about it. This is the weird thing about them. They'll go and think about it. They'll go and talk it over with each other. I don't know what they do. And then they come back and they'll say no. And those have been very painful experiences. To have that energy tell you no is very painful. But they've never once attacked me, criticized me, anything like that. So you can say no also. People come at you with their limitation and you feel pressured, manipulated, devalued, whatever it is. You can say no in a loving way. But whatever it is that they give to you, try and be like an ET. ETs never devalue you. They never criticize you. They never criticize anybody else either. If they come to you and start talking to you about somebody else, they will never criticize anybody else. They might show you their limitations, like so-and-so doesn't understand this, or so-and-so is doing their best, or they might talk like that. But they'll never come to you and say so-and-so is an idiot, or so-and-so really screwed that up, or so-and-so is evil, or so-and-so is... They'll never do that. Never. So I try not to do that. In any case, before I open it up for questions, I want you guys to think about that. And I want you to understand that to be in that place, let's say again the example of some higher dimensional being comes to you and says, you are the source of all love for the planet Earth. And you're like, how the hell is that possible? And they repeat it. They say it over and over again. They keep telling you this unbelievable thing about yourself. I want you to do what I do. Accept it at face value. Don't try and figure it out. Accept it at face value. And then don't be attached to it. Meaning, you're going to open your eyes up and you're going to have all kinds of things that are completely opposite of that. You're going to have experiences and feelings and impulses that are going to be totally opposite of that. But you're not going to be attached to either of them. You're not going to be attached to your negative reactions to reality, and you're not going to be attached to your supposed perfect, ideal divine self. You're not going to be attached to either, but you're going to accept it at face value. You're going to accept that identity And you're not even going to consciously reject the other part. Like, you're not going to say, I am not this and I am not this bad person. You're not going to reject anything about yourself. You're going to see that aspect of your identity. You know, when your parents told you you weren't good enough and you weren't smart enough, and, you know, if you do this, you're a bad person, and you can't be a dancer, you have to go to work and be rich. Whatever it is that your parents drilled into you, you know, telling you you're supposed to be, you're not going to reject that. You're just simply not going to respond from that. You're going to start responding from the belief that I don't understand it, but I'm the source of all love for the universe. So in this moment, I'm just trying to imagine, what would the source of all love do right here? Well, this person just, you know, honked their horn and flipped me off. And my first instinct would be to drive up next to him and give him the stink eye and see if maybe I could intimidate or frighten him, or, you know, because how dare you talk to me like that? So what I might do if I had the wherewithal is to go, what would the source of all love do in that? Wouldn't do that. I would just let them go, but I wouldn't respond, or I would smile, or I might even say sorry, even if it was their fault. That's what the source of all love would do. And it would be painful, and I would hate it. I would really hate it. But feelings are not, feelings are just that. They're responses. And we identify with our feelings. We identify with our attachments. And so if you act from a different place, even though you don't feel like doing it, you've now adopted a new identity in that moment. And if you want that identity to replace the third dimensional, because that's what we're talking about. The shift we're talking about is there's a fifth dimensional reality of you that already exists. And that fifth dimensional reality is going to come and replace the third dimensional reality that you identify with. And if that comes without your, interaction, then you will feel like you're dying. And you'll do things like extraterrestrials or evil beings that come and abduct you and, fuck you in the ass, right? Which is pretty much what they say, anal probing. It's pretty much what they're saying. Or you'll say that false beings of light are trying to trick me and trying to keep me trapped here, when the exact opposite is what beings of light are doing. They're telling you how amazing and wonderful you are, and they are actually, every time they interact with you, which is why everybody should be doing interdimensional meditation. When you interact with a higher dimensional being, five-dimensional energy is coming in and taking over, pushing away, pushing back, and replacing 3D energy. And that's what's coming. 5D energy is going to come and replace 3D energy. And if you want to believe what people are saying, I'm not saying it's true or not, but if you want to believe it, if it helps you, the more that you stay attached to your three-dimensional, lower vibrational stuff, then maybe you'll stay in a 3D place and everybody else will move to a 5D. I'm not saying that. Just it's a way of thinking. So whenever you have that and you talk to your higher dimensional guide and they tell you something amazing about yourself that you can't even fathom, I want you to remember that. Every time that you meditate, you want to ask yourself, how can I bring this, how can I bring 5D into the 3D? If yours is you're the god or goddess of love, then ask yourself, how in this moment can I bring the power of five-dimensional love into this three-dimensional space? You don't have to even know how to do it. Just ask the question and keep it going in your mind. And your job is to know that you're completely 3D right now. You have all the limitations of 3D. You're not going to deny any of that. You're going to simply try and replace it with 5D. All right. I'll shut up there so I don't repeat myself a third or fourth time. This is a question and answer. If you have a question, write the word question and I'll be happy to answer it. If you have a feeling, write the word feeling, or honest feeling in all caps. And a feeling is not an opinion. Like, I feel Jesus is God. That's an opinion. A feeling is I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm excited, I'm confused, I'm terrified, I'm elated. Those are feelings. King of the Conflagration. Might want to think about changing that title. King of the Conflagration. Feeling grateful for another Mahadev live stream. Oh, that's a nice thing to read. Zeralath Immortal. Honest feeling. Good afternoon, Mahadeva. I'm super excited. I just combined the 5-element posture to my resistance band workout. Well, that's interesting. I had never thought of that. But hey, whatever works. By the way, in case you don't know what he's talking about, if you go up here to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, I teach you 5 standing energy postures which have to do with the 5 elements. And trust me, you've never felt this kind of energy before until you've done this kind of stuff. Those postures, by the way, the standing postures, those of you who are doing them, if you needed to break through blockages in your meridians, that's what those postures are for. In fact, they're called jongs. There's one besides the 5-element ones that I share. But, that's, like if you went to old school energetic Kung Fu studio, if you were to go there and you were brand new, the first thing that would happen is the teacher would put you in the corner and put you in a posture. And then they might leave. And they say, stay in that posture. Now, of course, those kinds of teachers, you don't argue with them. You don't even say, how long do I stay in the posture? If they tell you to go stand in that posture, it means you stand in that posture until they tell you to get out of it. And they'll do things like they'll test you. They'll say, oh, and they'll give you a posture to stand in. And then they'll leave. First they'll sit around, they'll read the paper, drink their tea, whatever it is. And then they'll get up and leave. And they'll be gone for an hour. And, by then your body's shaking because it's hard to hold those postures for very long. And if you drop the posture, when they come back in, even if you go back into it, they'll know. They'll immediately know. And they'll say, thank you, that's all, and you'll be gone. You'll be out of, they'll never teach you again. So these postures then, these masters would then, after learning all of the most intricate forms and all the meditations and the mudras, and then when they get to be old men, they would do is they would just stand in a posture for 45 minutes or for 3 or 4 hours. Because they would just expand on opening up their meridians. That's why in the Chinese tradition, the old guys are the really powerful guys. In the Western MMA tradition, once you're past, 35 or 40, you're history. Boxers too. Once you get past a certain age, you're history. In the Chinese tradition, the older guys are the more powerful they are, is because their meridians are so open and there's so much energy flowing through them. And even though they may look old, but once they open up those meridians, you can't believe the power that comes out of them. That's what you're doing, Zeralath, and that is what is taught here in the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. Go subscribe there if you want to experience what Zeralath is talking about. I don't know if this person is serious or not, but in case they are, I'm going to put you in a timeout. You know who you are. Don't bring that garbage onto my channel. All right, that's not a question, Afro Man. I'm not going to you know what you're supposed to do. If you want to write a question, go ahead and put the time into it. I'll answer a question if you respect and follow my request on how to do that. Yahweh's Sandwich feeling. I am feeling disgruntled with the current system of humanity. It appears to me that the Titanic is sinking, but people are still dancing to the band of the sinking ship. Seems pointless to me. This is what is called projection. Now, Yahweh's Sandwich. I'm going to make a guess here. You can tell me if I'm right or not. You're not subscribed, are you? You're not doing even some of the free energy practices I teach, are you? Maybe I'm wrong. But here's what doing practices will do for you. This projection that you are projecting onto the human race is actually the feeling that you have about yourself. You judge yourself for dancing to the band of the sinking ship, and you think it's pointless. How do I know that? Because that's your judgment on others. There's nothing in that that tells me that you are saying to yourself, how can I take advantage of more power? Because those who are doing the work, when you experience the power, your thoughts, you stop thinking about what other people are doing. And you start thinking about how you can gain more and more of this power. And that's why your question will be about how to do a certain posture, or what that posture does for you, or what that meditation, or what that thing. That's why people ask me that. So I encourage you, even again, assuming you're not a 10-year-old who lives with his parents and can't afford to buy anything for himself, which I think, I think everybody should be subscribed to the 90-day challenge. I don't know why you're not. If it's a money thing, then you're a 10-year-old and you can't support yourself. Or for whatever reason, you can't support yourself. But even if that's not the case, you have no excuse, because you can go onto my channel and look at the playlists. And there's all kinds of practices. Pick one of them. The Hool Breath, the Awakening the Immortals, the Heaven-Earth Meditation, Thor's Belt. All of those things are free, and all of those things will open up your meridians and empower you. And if you're connected to the power of the universe, you're not going to be complaining about what the world is doing. I have a friend out here that I just ran into. I haven't seen him for a while, and he's just naturally like that. So he's a really good person for me to hang around with, because I get like you. I sometimes get into the space where I start, the world isn't going right. People aren't doing what I want. So I appreciate you for sharing your feeling, and even though you didn't ask for my take, I gave it anyway, so my apologies. Let's see what else. Bart Walker, question. Dropping attachments and ceasing to use substances, smoking, drinking, etc., is essential for maximum access to higher dimensions. Is it also essential to stop eating meats? No. Short answer is no. But, you can do whatever the heck you want. I have nothing against people becoming vegetarians or vegans or whatever, if that works for them, as long as you know what the correct nutrition is. I'll tell you, I've been alive for a while. So what ends up happening is that people end up having to take B vitamin supplements because they're not getting it in. There are certain things you can't get in, food. You can only get it from some kind of flesh. There are people that I've known who've been vegans and vegetarians, and then by the time they're 50, they have to become pescatarians or they become anemic. And I know people have a lot of emotion around it, and they get all bent out of shape, and they get really, and they start yelling and screaming and calling me names. I'm just telling you what I see. These are people who were lifelong vegans and vegetarians, and they had to do something. Eating grubs, eating worms, eating some kind of organic protein in order to not become anemic. And in fact, the Dalai Lama, his doctor finally said, you got to start eating animal flesh. I don't have a judgment. I'm just telling you what it is. So the short answer to your question, is it essential to stop eating meats? No. I don't do red meat. Red meat is not something that's good for you. I don't do red meat. Zakara question. Do you have, please write the word question in all caps, you guys, don't make me repeat myself. Do you have any advice on dealing with the fear of the concept of being eternal? You keep asking me that question, haven't you? I don't understand that question, so I don't know how to answer it, but any fear is fear. What you're asking me is, how do I deal with fear? That question is that you're trying to get rid of a feeling. And it's very common, by the way. We all go through this, but it doesn't work that way. You can't get rid of your feelings. You can't make them go away. You can drop things like victim mentality. A victim mentality is something that people invest in. Believing that beings of light are here to lie to you and torture you. That is a belief that people invest in. You can drop that belief and still be afraid of beings of light. That's totally different. So Zakara, if you've been on my channel, you know that at no point have I ever told anybody to get rid of or deal or get over feelings. I will never say that. It's destructive. It's suicidal. Trying to make a feeling go away is self-destructive. So I don't even know what your fear of the concept of all of that is. I don't know what that's about. I don't need to know. I don't judge you for having that fear. But you need to be working with somebody, for sure. You're not going to figure it out on your own. If you've got a distortion in your thinking, you can't use your thinking to fix your distorted thinking. This is what teachers are about. This is what, so if you don't have a therapist, or if you don't have a teacher, or if you don't have a mentor, get one. And you need a discipline, because teachers usually have a discipline. I have a discipline that I teach. It's called the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. And I take you through a specific discipline of exercises. And then the people who really get the most out of me will be people who are doing that, and then they become an apprentice. But I'm only interested in working with those apprentices who are willing to follow my directions. If you're not willing to follow my directions, don't waste my time. Don't waste your time either. So Zakara, that's what I hear in your question, is that you're on your own, you're floating around in nothing, you're watching YouTube videos thinking that means something. And all YouTube videos, teachers, if they're worth any salt, watching them is only good for inspiring you to realize that you need to shift out of where you are, and you need a teaching and a teacher to help you do that. So that's my recommendation for you. I don't have any advice on how to deal with a feeling, fear or otherwise, because I don't deal with my feelings. I have them. I may talk about them, but the only thing that matters is knowing what actions to take. It's the only thing you need to know how to do. To have the consciousness to know what is the appropriate constructive action, and then taking it. And then you'll have whatever feeling you'll have. You'll be filled with fear, you'll be filled with elation, you'll be filled with both. It doesn't matter. I mean, human beings are so wrapped up in trying to manage, control, and monitor their feelings. This is why people smoke. Somebody asked me said something about substances, smoking, drinking. This is why people smoke. This is why people drink. There was a time when the word smoke meant simply smoking cigarettes, but nowadays it means, if you say smoke, you could be saying smoking weed. But, if I just see somebody, because nowadays, again, you can't smoke inside. Everybody, when I was a kid, everybody smoked inside. Wherever you went, places were filled with cigarette smoke. It was awful. Nowadays, people have to go outside, and they're like, I kind of like it, because they're like in the shame box where they have to, because they're addicted. They can't not smoke. I see them, and I know, because I used to do it. And I say to myself as I'm driving by, as they're taking a big drag on that cigarette, I go, yeah, that's right. Stuff that anger. Stuff it way down. Stuff that sadness down there. Get that smoke in there. Pushing that, because that's what's going on. Smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, drinking, doing drugs, whatever it is, porn, whatever your addiction is. It's about stuffing your feelings down or distracting you out of your feelings. And I never tell anybody to do that. And Zakara, you're not going to be able to change this on your own. So, if the easy way out, go subscribe to the 90-Day Challenge. Let's see, what else? Yahweh's sandwich didn't like something I said, I guess. Or I'm not, I don't, it's great. If you guys are going to say something, give a context, because I don't know what the heck you're talking about at this point. Afroman, question. Is celestial qigong a universal navigation to the higher dimensions? So Afroman, it's awesome that you're into celestial qigong, and you keep asking me these generalized opinion questions about what it is. Last time you wanted to know if it was about healing or something like that. You can just save yourself those questions. The answer to all those questions is yes. However you want to look at it, celestial qigong is a higher dimensional practice that if you do it, it will give you, depending on who you are. Like when I first came out with celestial qigong, in case you guys don't know what celestial qigong is, I am giving it away almost for free in the Solar Flash package, which I haven't gotten rid of, solarflash.thunderwizard.com. It's one of the things you get. I'm almost giving it away for free. It's a tragedy. And if you want to just get it by itself, you can go to celestialqigong.thunderwizard. I think. Might even celestialqigong.com itself might work. I don't know. You can try both. You can try that. Let's see, I'll copy that. And you can try just celestialqigong.com. I don't know if that, I think that's one too. You can try both of those. But when I first came out with that, people would go, I want to know what I'm going to get. If I do that celestial qigong, what am I going to get out of it? I mean, I want to know what powers. I want you to tell me right now what kind of powers I'm going to get. And I'm going to say, how am I supposed to know? I don't know what powers you're going to get. You're going to open up your energy meridians and you're going to get whatever powers you're supposed to have. If you're a healer, you'll get healing powers. If you become psychic, you'll get, psychic powers. You become a wizard, a philosopher, you will levitate things. I don't know. You go do the work and find out. How am I supposed to know what you're supposed to get? So, Afroman, I do appreciate the questions because you're, giving me airtime to talk about celestial qigong. But I would say any of those questions that you have that lead to that positive explanation of what it is, I would say they're all true, especially if that's your experience of it. Okay, let's see. Flag Runner question. Will the 90-day challenge make me a more powerful martial artist? I do MMA. Thanks, Mahadeva. I can't promise anybody anything. I can tell you there's one guy who is my apprentice. He's also a martial artist. He hasn't trained with me. Now, if you did the 90-day challenge and you trained with me in my martial art, without a doubt, I would make you a far more powerful martial artist if you had the mindset to go there. But he took his martial arts and he started using the energy that he was getting from doing the 90-day challenge. And I'm just telling you what he told me. He knows who he is if he's watching it. His teacher has said, you have progressed faster than anybody I've ever seen, if I'm remembering what he said right. And all of his students have said, I've never seen anybody do that. In fact, whenever he's just tried to say, okay, and he's created an energy field around him and say, try and move me, they can't move him. I didn't teach him that. His teacher didn't teach him that. And he's faster and his delivery is more powerful than anybody's ever seen. It's the fastest thing they've ever seen. And the only thing he's done different is he's done the celestial qigong and the lightning qigong. That's the only thing he's done differently. So I can't answer what it's going to do for you. I don't know. Again, I don't know if you have any ability in that. I don't know. I don't know if your mind goes and is able to incorporate the energy. I don't know. But everybody that I've known that's done it and applied it to their martial arts has become more powerful. Timothy's all honest feeling. Just had a men's 12-step house meeting. Subject was the 11th step. Energy work and meditation is a major part of my recovery. I'm grateful and content. I'm happy to hear that, Timothy. Good for you. Nothing else? Okay, no other questions? I guess we're done. All right, so that's it. So I'll keep you guys abreast, but according to my meditations, Shiva has decided to bring awakening to the world. And the one thing the phrase that stuck out at me is that Shiva will also respond to your decision. If you decide to become aware, you will. If you decide to transcend, you will. And if you make the decision that the earth will transcend, that will bring him that much faster to unilaterally bring awakening and awareness to our reality. But make no mistake, 5D is encroaching on 3D, and it's going to replace it. And if you want to go through that process comfortably, then I recommend that you do energy work. I don't know any more powerful practice than what I teach. The 90-day challenge, interdimensional meditation, all of those can be found at thunderwizard.com. Please go take a look at my books and read them. And if you read my books, please leave a review, not just a star review, but actually write some words on it. It'll get more books sold. Interdimensional Revolution is out also. A bunch of books that I wrote a long time ago are on audiobooks now, and Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth is also available. You can get them at audiobooks.thunderwizard.com. If you're in another country besides the US, make sure you click, to see the US version of Audible so you can see my books, or just type my name in. That's it. Is there another question here? Let's see. Last question. In light of your recent galactic awakening, I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. Is there a new dimension level to your Runes Divination book series? I ask because I've recently purchased your second Rune book. The answer to that question is yes, but you're asking me, have I found another dimension to it? I haven't put any effort to do that. I'm sure if I did, I would. But what I would recommend that you do is take the book as is, follow it, read it, practice it, and then do the interdimensional meditation course and see what happens. What I can tell you is that I wrote that book before I knew anything about higher dimensional beings. I mean, I knew about elves and ancestors, and I knew that the runes were definitely connected to them. But what I've come to find out is that runes are something that, in fact, were given to human beings by beings of light, by ETs. ETs are the ones that created the runes. When Odin was sacrificing himself on the tree of life and the runes appeared to him, it was ETs that came and gave that to him. So there definitely is. My recommendation is to learn it as is, follow the directions, and then do the interdimensional meditation course and see what else you can do with them. Great question. Anything else? Nothing else. All right, that's it for me, guys. I wish you guys all the best. I shall see you all next time. Take care.